welcome to the latest episode of Vinyl and Vision. What you're listening to currently is the first track off of Umbrella Co.'s EP entitled Initial, called Cold War Sunday. My guest tonight is James Toomey. He's the drummer for this band, and this is a little snippet of their music. So, let me go ahead and start this.
Sounds good.
All right. So, hello everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the latest episode, episode 7 of Vinyl and Vision. I'm your host, Jimmy Drab. I have my guest tonight is James Toomey.
Hi, everyone.
James Toomey is a Providence resident and a musician in the area. And I don't know what the official title is of yours at your job.
I am the director of marketing at Blackstone Valley Tourism.
Cool. Yeah, because I knew it was Blackstone Valley Tourism, but I just didn't know what the title was exactly.
Yeah.
That's cool. So what does that entail? Because I don't really know much about it myself.
There's a lot of different elements to that. Well, I guess first off, we're a relatively small office, so there's a lot of responsibilities that kind of fall to that position. But our organization is we're a nonprofit that one part is promotion of the northern part of Rhode Island, known as Blackstone Valley.
Mm-hmm.
So it's to drive tourism to the area, to our attractions, restaurants, historic sites. And, in addition to that, we do a lot of community development. The organization started in 1985, and at that time, Blackstone Valley was very post-industrial area, and there wasn't necessarily a lot of touristy things there. It had a lot of history and culture. It's the birthplace of the American Industrial Revolution, which is basically the birthplace of America's economic freedom from England. So essentially America wouldn't exist if it wasn't for this part of Rhode Island. So my boss recognized that, and he went and started this organization and really was an advocate for what is now known as sustainable tourism.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of different. We do food tours, but all of this stuff has kind of come up to showcase and really kind of honor the true self that Blackstone Valley is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, basically showing off kind of how much more it has to offer than what people might think of it. Because, I know, compared to the most popular city in the state, Providence.
Yeah.
Providence and Pawtucket have both gone through some pretty significant revitalizations and even the Renaissance, if that's what you want to go so far as to say that. The northern parts of the state, which would be I don't want to say Coventry, and it's my neighbor over here. Cumberland.
Yeah.
Central Falls, Woonsocket.
Exactly. Yeah.
Those three major cities, or
Blackstone Valley in Rhode Island is 9 cities and towns. So from Pawtucket to Burrville is basically kind of the northwest corner.
Okay.
It's definitely
and you cover all of that.
We do, yeah. So it's kind of a unique challenge, so to say. So we do have the 3 lowest income cities in the state, which are Woonsocket, Central Falls, and Pawtucket.
Right.
And they're these densely populated, rich historic and cultural centers. Personally, I love Central Falls. It's probably one of my just favorite places. The food scene in Central Falls is absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so many authentic restaurants from Colombian to Venezuelan and Dominican and really good Portuguese there, because it's immigrant families that live there.
It's authentic, right?
Truly authentic. Go into El Paisa, and I don't speak Spanish, but I feel a little bit weird being in there because I don't speak Spanish.
Because everyone else there
everyone is speaking Spanish, and but the food is phenomenal. So we have those types of places, but then that's also matched with these just kind of sprawling rural areas, where in
Right.
Gloucester we have like equestrian farms and just a lot of open space and a maple farm and vegetable farms and meat farm, like just these big areas, and antiquing, and these sort of like quintessential New England villages where you can go antiquing and get coffee or go to like a winery. So there's a lot to offer, or a lot to come see. We have a lot to offer up there. So just trying to help get the word out, and letting people know that even if you are in Providence, that a very short drive, I'm talking about like 15, 20 minutes from Providence, you could be at this like rustic winery.
That sounds great. I mean, we should take advantage of living in the smallest state. We have the shortest commutes of anyone in any other state, basically.
But it is odd because a lot of people will never go to Burrville because they're like, oh, that's way too far.
Well, that's a good idea that you mentioned, that kind of just bringing more attention to it, because I don't think that most people here, like now I spend a lot of my time in Warwick, and here living here in West Warwick, I'm spending more of my time in this section of the state now. I actually seldom even go into Providence now, so it's like, it's just, for some reason, it's that weird part of our personalities in Rhode Island, where we just hunker down in our little sections of the state, in our little circles, But I do love going out into new places and checking new things out. And what you're saying, it sounds actually pretty fun and interesting to just go and explore those sections of the state that I never go through. Minus like just maybe highway blasting through it to get to wherever else. But I mean, it's about kind of appreciating where you live and how much more there is around you, because I think most people live like that, right? Like most people in any other major city probably have the same feeling, where it's just like, hey, you might live in New York City, but you're still only kind of staying within the same, you never leave the island type thing.
Yeah. Or I mean, there's some people with that particular example that never even leave their borough or leave their neighborhood,
right. Which New York, kind of makes sense because everything is so condensed, but at the same time, I mean, like other cities that are, kind of surrounded by more like rural terrain than that.
Yeah.
It's way too urban, really, for an example. But, it's just comfort level thing, People don't like to leave their little comfort zones, I don't think.
I'm not sure. I mean, but with that, if people do want to just discover something, then they don't even have to travel that far.
Exactly.
That there's probably a lot of stuff that just isn't top of mind. But I mean,
so you just got to bring that attention. That's
so,
right, because I saw that video, like that little clip that you guys were working on for the highlighting some of the food choices in the neighborhoods. It looks so good. I definitely do want to go eat up there.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff. So I mean, if it's all right, like to plug it, but our website is tourblackstone.com, tourblackstone.com. And if you go there, things are broken up by activities and then into like kind of the, subcategories from where you go biking. So we have our bike path, the Blackstone River Bikeway that runs from Woonsocket to Cumberland off-road, and then there's on-road connection that runs all the way to the Massachusetts border to Providence. Great mountain biking. But anyway, like you can break all that stuff down and filter it, and all the food is broken into different styles and the different cities. So you can search all that stuff out, and then there's just a ton of events that are going on there.
You've hosted a few of them actually already that were pretty interesting. Like you guys did that .air festival, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was a really great experience. I got to work very closely with the folks at Machines with Magnets, like most specifically Willa when she was there, and Marcel when he was there. And it was just really fun. I mean, it was just trying to create something from the ground up and do something different each year. It was definitely not the easiest route, as I'm sure that like Willa and Marcel will agree with, that of just trying to bring this festival into a different section of Pawtucket, and then that area be the inspiration for the artists and for the the type of aesthetic and all these other things that kind of went on. So it wasn't your typical like, all right, we're going to take over this field that usually has a festival and put up a stage and bring in a sound system and we're good to go. It was like, we're going to go under this bridge. We're going to go on top of this parking garage, in this parking garage, like different stuff like that. So, yeah, it was really fun. And I can keep going on, but there's a lot of stuff happening in Pawtucket and a lot of people that are moving into the city. It's been cool.
Yeah, so. Well, that's great. And it sounds like it's a good timing too, because especially with the art scene becoming more prevalent in that city and that surrounding area. Obviously Providence is a disaster for low income people, like the artists, the guys that are struggling to make some money to just afford their rents. So they're gonna probably be looking up into those neighborhoods now, which is great. And
you've seen that of just trying to have live work spaces. Pawtucket was at the forefront of that with this gentleman, Morris Nathanson, was like an artist that came to the area and was a big advocate for having like the live work like mill spaces decades ago. So it's always been they've always kind of been a leader at that. But yeah, they're providing that. Same thing with Central Falls. They just kind of, there's artists that are moving into those spaces. So it's, people have kind of commented on it that Pawtucket and Central Falls are kind of like the Brooklyn of our state, where like that's where artists. So maybe that might not be the best thing, as people are not able to live in Brooklyn anymore. But but yeah, it kind of has that vibe, and yeah.
Yeah, man, that sounds great. I'll link it for you, actually. Like, I don't mind you mentioning it at all, anything like that. I mean, it's part of what you do. It's part of who you are, and that's completely fine with me, man. Another thing I wanted to touch on was the band that you're in now.
Sure.
Came as kind of a surprise that I saw that you joined them, because I assumed you were so busy with the whole doing this job, obviously, and then having children and being married.
Yeah,
that definitely puts a strain on trying to do the work music wise.
Yeah.
So tell me about them.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's been great. I've started playing in a new band called Umbrella Co. The band has existed for a little bit. I mean, it's a relatively new band, or especially here in Rhode Island. There's not they haven't played like a ton of shows before I connected with them, but yeah. I mean, I not to backtrack too much, but yeah, I played in a lot of bands and then did take some time off, but just felt I don't know, I just kind of wanted to connect with some new people. So I still sit in with other bands that I've played with, but connecting with Umbrella Co. has been fun to just learn some new songs, play some different styles. So it's more in like I don't know. I mean, what does indie rock mean, I guess, but I don't know how to really describe it. I mean, there's a lot of different influences from like Radiohead and those types of bands, I guess. But
right. Well, I think the word that we're going to be using tonight a lot is going to be emo, and the very different genres of that.
Yeah. Okay.
The different subcategories of that genre.
Yeah.
Because tonight we're going to be featuring Sunny Day Real Estate's Diary. And I've been doing a little bit of research about that band, because I actually don't really know much about them at all. Mm-hmm. But it sounds actually, now, having listened to that on repeat for a little while, and then listening to your band through the Bandcamp website, which I can link that as well.
Sure.
Yeah, there's definitely similarity there.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously a little different. It's obviously, I mean, you're different bands or whatever, but it's kind of within the same vein,
Yeah. I mean, I'll take that. Yeah. So I mean, it's just been cool. I mean, getting to connect the bass player Chris. It's I've just enjoyed kind of hanging out with these guys, to be honest. Like, so Chris, ironically or coincidentally, writes a travel blog called Lil Pines, Lil Pines,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like stayed on the riverboat that Blackstone Valley Tourism owns. Like, so we have this English canal boat that we'd rent out as like a bed and breakfast, and he's like stayed on it,
Mm-hmm.
and written a blog about it. So, just kind of connecting with him on that, on like his travels, which are very much the unique places, like the very like Blackstone Valley kind of places of just like off the beaten path.
Yeah.
Staying in lighthouses and checking out like fire towers and stuff. So, his travel site is great, but just like getting to know him a little bit more and just kind of connecting with that. He's played in bands for a long time. He was in Broadcaster. He was in some other bands around here and playing a lot in the area and up in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just been really cool to just connect with him. And John, who's the singer and songwriter, is somewhat of a recent transplant from Chicago.
Oh,
Extremely just an awesome guy, really nice guy to just hang out with. And I don't know, it's just been kind of fun of just building that relationship and just kind of starting something new.
Yeah.
Learning how to write songs with some new people, trying to kind of break away from the same tendencies that I might make as a drummer, and just trying to push myself into that in that way.
Yeah. That's interesting because I find you to be one of the most like kind of like tactical drummers that I know. Like you're a great drummer, like hands down.
Cool, thank you.
Best I've ever played with. And I was always admired your like kind of creativeness with it. That just the little things that you would do, like the what are those little metal chain on your cymbals for that tremolo-y effect?
Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
Metal chains on
Yeah.
cymbals.
But I mean, it's just like that kind of organic like way to experiment with sound and kind of test the realms of possibilities with your instrument.
Yeah.
So I've always respected that, and to say that you're trying to do that more now, I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. I definitely want to hear what you're doing.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess there's just always been that ambition to just keep learning and keep trying new stuff. And I don't know. I mean, so it's not like I'm completely changing genres or something like that, but with what they're like what they're looking for, like John's influences, or he's very big into like English pop stuff and some things that I've just, to be honest, I'm not as familiar with. So just trying to get more acquainted with that, or trying to kind of meld those sounds where I am a self-taught drummer that is very much in the started as the Dave Grohl, William Goldsmith, I'm going to play these things as hard as I can.
And just like playing along through headphones, like till bands that you wanted to just like kind of idolize or whatever. Just trying to learn from them.
Exactly. Yeah. So, so trying to get those things to kind of mash up, and again, Chris has done a ton of just like program, like drum program and beats, and just a lot of like more like has some experience with some more electronic sound. So I don't know, just trying to bring all these kind of things together.
Right. So the recording that you guys had on Bandcamp, it's a like 3-song EP, right? Now, did you record on that?
No,
you didn't. Okay.
No, that was already recorded. But their drummer moved to Ohio, and that was just kind of how I connected with them. Was just
they needed a drummer.
Just kind of like searching. I was like, anyone need a drummer? And this came up, and listened to it and liked it, and reached out and just said, hey,
So are you guys working on new songs now together?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a handful of songs that we've been playing live. So kind of where we're at now is just trying to kind of pare those down to a smaller handful that we'll focus on for recording, and then just kind of fine tuning them. So a lot of what we were doing was just kind of getting them ready to play live, like getting them like, all right, we learned this. Here's the verse, chorus, verse type thing, but like
flesh them out.
Yeah, exactly. Just trying to get the sound there, and so yeah, that's where we're at right now. We're looking to hopefully record soon, like in the the next few months. Get a couple more songs done, and then see how we can put them out.
Yeah.
But,
Cool.
yeah.
Maybe get some vinyl pressed. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of talked about that. Just looking at different ways to go about that. So yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be kind of cool to do like a 7-inch, or I'd like to do a split with someone. So yeah.
If any bands out there are interested.
Yeah, if anyone wants to do it, let us know.
I'll link your band's Bandcamp, and then that way people can listen to it, stream it, kind of see what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's going to be different because you're not playing on that recording, and you guys are working on new material, which is good. But that's ballpark idea.
Yeah, it's
around
probably
there.
won't be too much different, but
Yeah.
But yeah, just doing that, and then just playing some shows. So that's definitely been eye-opening / fun / not fun. Just starting to book more shows. It definitely has this like I've been lucky to play with the bands I've played in. So getting to play in Barn Burning, Anthony. I love Anthony. He's such a, I don't know, just a strong person, but he would just continue to always push the band and just be booking these shows, and
for better or for worse.
Yeah. But he'd just always be like booking these shows, and it'd be like, can you do this show? And same thing with Mark from Sharks from Cruising. He just be like, we're doing these shows, and so with this, like more of it is just it's like new, like, so I can still reach out to those people and try to set up some shows. And it's a sense I do kind of like this being like, again, somewhat of a newer thing for me, that it can kind of stand on its own. But there is that like level of like, who are you? Like what, I've never heard of your band before. Like what, like where, I mean, Barn Burning has been a band for, it's coming up on 20 years basically. Pretty soon.
I guess so.
Whether you like them or hate them, you've probably at least heard the name of the band, So
yeah, if you're from Rhode Island, more likely. But I mean, you got to start somewhere, and so I mean, from what you're saying, what are the names of the members in your band? Jay,
John and Chris.
Chris. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, these guys started what, a year ago?
Well, there was another member, Harrison, that connected with John together, and they did a lot of the writing, but that was a few years ago. And then the bass player before Chris was Keith, who's now in 1-2-3 Astronaut.
Okay.
So they had done some of that recording, but this EP came out the beginning of last year. So they had been recording. I think that they'd really only played like one show in Providence. So yeah, it's
it'll take time.
Yeah,
you guys will get a record out, and then next thing you know, it won't seem so strange. People, you can say your band's name and be like, oh, that's right. Yeah, I heard you guys. You guys were playing the other night, right? Happens all the time.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of which, when are you playing again?
We have a show at the News Cafe on April 6th. Not exactly sure who else is on
Yeah, that's a ways away still, a couple months.
Yeah, I guess so. A month and a half or so. So, yeah, that's the next Umbrella Co. show. I am going to be sitting in with Sharks, come cruising on a couple of shows in March.
St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, I'm doing the St. Patrick's Day show, and a week prior to that, we're doing a show with the Tossers at Askew, which so March 10th. So excited about that.
Cool, man.
They're such a great band, and so yeah, the Tossers on the Poor Men and Sharks Come Cruising. So yeah, it's always fun to just get back with those guys. They're just really fun to play with. So
cool, man. Yeah. Sounds great. Well, so we should get into this record.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Let me give it to you. Let me give it to you so you can look it over. I didn't warn you that this is the 2009 reissue.
Okay.
Are you familiar?
I just know that they put a couple other tracks.
A couple bonus tracks, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's remastered. It's double vinyl, so we've got 2 records to get through tonight.
All right.
It's not that much longer than your typical record. It's just over the span of two albums. Yeah. Have you owned a copy of this before?
No, not on vinyl. No.
Oh, have just CD before?
Yeah,
CD
I
or
think
tape?
I just burned it from someone, to be honest. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, Sub Pop, but.
No, that's all right. So what's your history with this band like? Because this was released in 1994 originally.
Yeah.
So were you were around 14 when this came out?
Yes.
Okay.
You know a lot about me.
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah. Well, yes, I just knew that we were the same age.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier for me to do the math. If you were just a year or so behind or forward, I would just, I don't know, how old are you?
Yeah.
6 years old?
Yeah.
By the looks of these guys, you may have been 6 when you bought this. I don't know. But so 14, did you hear about this when it came out or
No.
hit you a little later?
Yeah. My introduction to it was, about that time, about when I was 13, 14 or so, there was this kid in high school, Jeff Natick, that made me a cassette that had the Get Up Kids 4 Minute Mile on it.
Okay.
And then it gave me Separate the Magnets from Grade. And 4 Minute Mile from the Get Up Kids, just really hit with me,
Yeah.
I guess.
That was a pretty legendary, emo rock record.
Yeah. So I just listened to that all the time, and it just connected with it, and it became what I could, call my own in some sense, or just at that seminal time of growing up.
Yeah.
Breaking away from your parents or any of that other kind of stuff, or just trying to find your own. So I just listened to that a lot, and kind of at that same time I started to play music, and one of my bandmates was this guy Andy Jones, and he just knew that I listened to this Get Up Kids record all the time and listened to that type of stuff. And he's like, dude, you got to check out Sunny Day Real Estate.
Really?
If you like this stuff, you have to listen to Sunny Day. So, he was the guy that passed us along, and, he was the big advocate for Diary. So.
Yeah, it seems from the research that I have done, the interviews that I've listened to, and the reading that I've done to try to kind of bone up on this, it seems like ever since this record came out, and it seems like ever since it came out, not years down the road, it became one of those records where it's just hey, oh yeah, you know about this band, that you're going to want to hear about them.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to want to listen to this record, and this one especially. Yeah. This being their debut record. Which is kind of pretty amazing to be in a band and have your debut record be one of the most seminal pieces of work in the genre that it's part of,
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, I really didn't know anything about this record before you chose it, and I never really wanted to.
No, what do you mean? Like you didn't want? Like you were just
when I was 14. I was getting into music as well, but the type of music that I was into was not like this at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not completely. I mean, there was the whole grunge thing that was happening, and obviously Nirvana was a big influence, and I listened to them, endlessly at that time. But I also, the other bigger band that I was listening to a lot at that time was the Red Hot Chili Peppers, because I have older brothers and they influenced me kind of sometimes. Not so terribly, but sometimes it was just like questionable.
Yeah.
Like some of the stuff they were getting into, and obviously I was, exposed to it as well, and a lot of it stuck. And I don't know, I didn't even like listen to this record like then, but I just knew I didn't want to have anything to do with it. Like I remember like maybe hearing like a little snippet of it, like maybe like catching clips of the videos and the songs from like 120 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it. And I was just like, I don't know. I don't want to listen to that band. And so it took me a while before I got into like anything that was along the same lines of like emo music in general, like kind of hardcore, emo core, or whatever you want to call it. All that stuff, the indie alternative, which I guess has morphed into since.
Yeah.
Like the Get Up Kids and Braid and the Promise Ring were all bands that I had heard about and I was kind of interested in, and I was just like, yeah, I'll listen to it eventually. And eventually was only like 10 years ago or something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it seems like if it's not your thing, it can be easy for it to not be. Like just one element, like Jeremy's voice is not a typical singing voice, so it's like so recognizable. And even just the ones that you just listed, like especially Davey from The Promise Ring, like it almost kind of seems that that evolution to this wave of emo, like Jeremy kind of opened the door for that. Like you don't have to have your typical like music school singing voice to be in this band. That there was just that like rawness. So yeah, Promise Ring and Piebald. I mean Travis.
Oh, Piebald, that's another big one.
There's like some of that stuff is even though I love Piebald, some of that stuff is rough. Later records, I think. As you know, like I listened to We're the Only Friends That We Have, like on constant when we were on the road together. So
that's true.
That was like my driving record. So
I've never owned that copy of that record, and I don't think I ever need to.
Okay.
It's pretty much stuck in my brain at this point.
But yeah, there's, I guess you can kind of see the evolution. It is kind of a unique thing, or just maybe just a coincidental thing with Sunny Day being from Seattle.
Yeah.
Because at that time, obviously, it was just like the big grunge.
It had to work in their favor,
I think. Well, I don't know, but I would assume that it was like it brought attention, or it brought. It gave Sub Pop probably some money.
Yeah, one of the things that I saw in my research was that this album was the 7th best-selling record on Sub Pop.
Yeah.
Which is pretty weird. 7th best. And I guess the figure at the time too was 291,000 copies.
Yeah.
Which that's not even. That's very good for an independent record for sure.
Oh yeah.
But. The gold standard for like the typical for the mainstream record industry is 500,000 for gold, right?
Yeah.
So,
but my view, like selling like 10,000 records is like indie rock gold,
Oh
so,
yeah, right. Yeah, no, I would be happy with 5,000. That's great. But I guess it was kind of a weird for me to kind of see that and kind of try to put that into perspective, because the whole record sales industry thing is really, it blows my mind. I don't understand it. I just really don't. And, you know, for lack of having any kind of professional career in that industry. But I don't understand, like, all these different, like, variants of pressing and stuff like that. Like, I don't know how they keep track of all that. Like, especially at that level, like when you're a company, like let's say from Sub Pop's perspective, having to press that many records, like, and how many do they press at first? And like, then there's the whole, like, okay, first, second press, like second, third pressings of whatever release, you know, on vinyl, and then CDs and cassettes. And it just kind of seems, I don't know, mind numbing to think about it.
Yeah.
But,
well, just the different side of they seem like they're sort of in the middle of the spectrum of things, where you might have your, you know, Sony records that's like, all right, we just signed such and such an artist, so we need to print, you know, at the first one 1 million units of this, you know, a CD. You know, they're probably in that range. But yeah, the bands I've been in are like, so what's the minimum I can order?
Right. Can you order 25 of those?
You know?
That's actually what the Tall Teenagers said to me last time on the last episode, that they ordered the very minimum just because they knew they were going to be releasing the record, and they just wanted to have CDs ready for the CD release party.
Yeah.
But they, like, had no expectations to, like, sell any amount of them, or didn't really want to, I guess, you know, because they, you know, they have everything online now. It's all digital. You just go, like, just buy it off Bandcamp or something and just download it to your device. Yeah. So, yeah, and I understand that. You know, it's just like, if you don't expect to sell thousands of them, and I mean, you don't want to keep on holding on to those and, like, having to move all these boxes of CDs around endlessly for how long, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So
no, I mean, Mark from Sharks and Cruising has become a master of that kind of stuff. Or I mean,
he's his own distribution company.
Well, he is, but he's just become very smart. Well, with regard, I mean, he is very smart with like everything he's done. I mean, he's run that band very, very well, very professionally. It's a great band to play in and played in. But yeah, he's just aware of, like, all right, I'm not going to print so many copies of this thing because I know what our fan base is, and we're going to sell this many records. So, like, actually they just put out a great new record that came out last year. So they did a short run of CDs, but they did lathe cut vinyl. So they did, I think, I don't know, maybe like 50 copies or something like that on like vinyl. On like a double 10-inch like gatefold, like really nice. Like cool, like screen print jackets that Paul from Teeth Like Swords printed, and they just did like some really cool stuff. So Mark always does a lot of those types of things of just doing these short runs, sort of DIY aesthetic and ethic to things. So
that sounds great. I didn't realize that they had pressed vinyl anytime.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'll have to talk to him about that, because I'd be very interested in kind of knowing how you know, what the process is like and what he did with it. And
sure, I'd love to talk to you. Yeah.
Cool. So let's dive into this record, because this might be a little bit of a lengthy one.
All right.
When's the last time you listened to this?
This week.
Yeah, but I mean,
I didn't want to get caught off guard, you know.
Right.
So I was like, oh yeah, that, you know.
Well, I mean, how much did you listen to this, like, growing up with it? Like, you know, like, how familiar with it are you?
I'm quite familiar, but you know, I guess we should just get it out of the way, since like the first couple of notes have been played. Is that this isn't my favorite Sunny Day record? You know?
Oh, it's not?
No.
Oh, well, it's the one that I had.
What? Oh no, and that's fine. But I'm just saying that, like, you're absolutely right with this being like such a seminal record, and this is what everyone goes to. But like, I listen to, or my favorite is How It Feels to Be Something On, like their like third album. So that's like my go-to Sunny Day record.
Yeah.
But this is such a, I don't know. I mean, it is this classic, rock record. I mean, this is classic emo record that I don't know. It seems like it does has its lineage that, you know, even just the, you know, what I had read, you know, the members of this band will cite Rites of Spring as like who their influence is, and yeah, any band that came after Sunny Day Real Estate that plays anything like this, it's gonna be, you know,
they're in their like,
you know, either they're gonna say it or they're gonna be disingenuous about like not saying it, you know. But yeah, Sunny Day is there, you know. Like I can't like listening to Williams drumming, like you know, whether I like it or not, like he's just been a big influence.
Yeah. Now, why do you say that? Do you not like the way he drums, or like in your level of maturing, like as a musician, as a drummer? I mean, do you feel like this was kind of immature to you at that time, at your age, at your young age, and you kind of grew away from it? Or
no, I guess I just bring it up because I've never like sat with Sunny Day Real Estate and said, all right, let me learn how to play in circles, you know, like I have with some other bands or some other songs, or like I just want to play this song. So yeah, I just admit that it's just sort of been like I've listened to Sunny Day so much that it just gonna kind of come in almost subconsciously into my playing, and you know, he's just a big rock drummer, you know.
yeah,
you know, I can kind of see again that since there wasn't a whole lot of this genre beforehand, that, you know, playing in like the hardcore scene as these guys did, I can kind of pick up on, you know, William just wanted to like fill that space. Like he just was like, it almost seemed like he was kind of trying to play like these like punk hardcore songs, like slowed down a little bit, or like trying to hold back a little bit from what he would normally do to produce these types of things. Because there's just a lot of hits, like, you know, if you notice, there's just a lot of snare hits. There's a lot of you know, things that he throws in that are his, you know, that make his style. But it's just like that's a lot of shit you threw in there, you know. It's like you didn't necessarily need to be like da 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 da, you know, like you're just like, you know.
Yeah, well, I don't have anything to compare it to though, because did he play? You were saying that your favorite Sunny Day record was what is it called again?
How It Feels to Be Something On.
How It Feels to Be Something On, right? Because from the research I was doing, that came up a lot as well, where, you know, fans of this band would say just what you did, and that is probably one of their best records. I don't know it. I'm not familiar with it though. Actually, I don't think I've ever listened to it.
Oh, okay.
But I do know that this band has had such like just a disaster of a band.
Yeah,
the personal relationships between all of the members has just been like this just hot mess.
Yeah.
Of, you know, back and forth, like obviously loving each other enough to work together to make this record, and then like falling apart, and then Nate and William, you know, leaving the band. I guess I don't know if they were intention was to officially leave this band and like never come back, but obviously Will Goldsmith with his falling out with Dave Grohl and Foo Fighters did go back to the band. So did he play on that record? The third record?
Did William play on?
Yeah.
He did, but Nate did not.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Nate did play on the second record.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Nate's played on all the Sunny Day recordings, with the exception of that particular record. And Nate also played in the Fire Theft. So the Fire Theft was basically Sunny Day without Dan, who's the other guitar player.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, you're right. Their personal relationships have been. Yeah, kind of odd, I guess, or I don't know. I mean, it's just a good thing to kind of keep in mind with whatever success kind of comes from, and you know, just what I don't know. I guess for me, like growing up, there was always that ambition to be a musician and to, I don't know. I mean, to be a famous musician, and just had that. I've always wanted to tour, but getting to actually meet or become friends with famous musicians, like MTV famous musicians, or hearing these types of stories, like it doesn't always line up. It's not this like paradise that like you're Sunny Day Real Estate and you have this the number 7 selling record on Sub Pop, but they just had this relationship that within themselves that they just couldn't stay together, or they kind of come back together and back away, or they'd be like infighting, or they'd be this person believes in this particular religion and I can't believe in that, so let's like move away. Right. And just a lot of different stuff,
Right.
So
well, I mean, I feel like I've on a personal level, I've always been in any band that I've been in. I've been with people that obviously we're not the same person. We share a mutual interest, and probably many mutual interests, but at the same time we're just different people too. We have things that we don't have in common, and but that's okay. I mean, you make it work if you're friends, right? Mm-hmm. I just don't understand this relationship. I don't understand this band and how weird and like diverse it was between all of them to like, I don't know, just even to keep on trying to make it work. I mean, because they've even released. I think it's because they've sold 250,000 copies of this record. They've sold. Right. So I mean, if you kind of, I guess that's the things that you can kind of weigh out is just. So I've played in bands that aren't, successful in this way at all. So right. Nobody's gonna care if we break up. No one's gonna ask us to play a reunion show. Like no one's gonna do all these other things. But like if you're Sunny Day Real Estate, or if that's what you look at doing, or probably more importantly, if that's what you are doing for money, then you need to kind of keep that stuff in the back of your head. If it's like, all right, do I want to play in this band and try to make this stuff work, and kind of just hope that the other member has changed enough that we can get on stage, right?
Cross your fingers. Or do I want to go like work for my uncle's plumbing company or something like that? I mean, those are like the real life choices that
right.
that happen all the time. I mean, some of my favorite bands, that's literally what they're, they write this classic record and everyone loves it, but like it's not, they don't sell enough of it for them to only play music, so they're like working in construction, or like
right.
Just that that thing, so I mean, again, I don't know if that's what it is, but I mean, they probably just tried to make that stuff work, or tried to make it work more with that particular group. I know that the stuff I've heard is that Jeremy and William have just played in bands together forever, and I think they just like making music together, which is like something to that's just a really like understandable and admirable kind of thing of just wanting to always kind of get together and just create, but again, they're just going to be under a different microscope, like Jeremy Enoch and any of these guys are not going to be able to do anything without it being like former Sunny Day Real Estate, or right. Like even if they try to start some other like small side project, it's going to be, oh yeah, and this is what William's doing or whatever,
Yeah,
so
well, of course. I mean, that shit follows you, and it kind of has to, and it only helps you really as a musician. I mean, the more success that you've had in a band, the better for you in your future career. I mean, like it's like any other band, like any famous band, any band that's disbanded and members have gone on to do solo projects or whatever. It's just like usually they're never as successful, but at least they have that option to say like, okay, well, I'm going to do this. Like, the most notable example that comes into my mind is like Joe Strummer.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's devastating from a fan's perspective, because it's just like a guy that was on such a pedestal of being like this iconic like punk legend, literally a legend.
Yeah, yeah.
and then that band breaks up, and they just go their separate ways, and all of them go on to do separate projects, and and he just was never able to get back to anywhere near that level of like success.
Yeah.
I mean, enough to keep him going. I mean, but he'd be like working at it hard, like not on an independent level per se, but to be struggling.
Yeah.
I mean, like whatever royalties or whatever he's getting from the Clash, fine. But he wants to be able to still remain true to himself and create eternally. But everything that he would put out after that point, it was just like, it's just kind of sliding under the radar, and like no radio stations want to talk to him, like that type of thing, where it's just like no one wants to talk to him about what he's doing. They all just want to know about what did the Clash do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's one of those things. I guess like that kind of is what happens with fame and like celebrity when you're successful at something like being in a band. Like it helps your career. I mean, like you don't have to go back to the day job, but you have to deal with always living under that shadow.
Yeah.
For good, for better.
Yeah,
or for
but
worse.
I mean, I recently saw that there was a GoFundMe for William. It's because he was going to sell his drums, and because he's like just like out of money. So again, you can just look at like this iconic drummer that has just influenced people behind him and has played everywhere, like from any of the clubs coming up with Sunny Day to giant arenas with Foo Fighters, and now he's at the
peddling his instrument.
now he's trying to he's getting to that place. So I don't know. I mean, I think anyone that's kind of honest about this stuff just knows that when these things hit, there really isn't necessarily like rhyme or reason. They're just some things right place at the right time, and connects with the right people, and it kind of spreads that way. But yeah, I mean, I guess the point is just that that's a tricky thing. So you could hate the other members of your band. Not saying that Sunny Day does, but you could hate the members of your band, hate the band that you played in, and if you're like famous enough, you're never going to be able to shake it down, because anything else you ever do is just going to be, oh yeah, you were in that band. Can you talk about that? Can you talk about what this is? And you can never just be. Yeah, I mean, it's tough to come up with someone that has like just completely reinvented themselves, and kind of moved away from whatever that particular band or even just genre to just stand alone. So
JT sounds like the best example of that.
Justin Timberlake, maybe, but he's still
like, how many of his fans can even recall what did he do before he was just Justin Timberlake?
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe like Beyonce is just kind of
I think she's elevated
level.
past Destiny's Child. That's what she was in for, right?
Yeah.
Destiny's Child?
Yeah.
I don't even know pop music, and that shit sticks with me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm thinking of like, is there anyone that maybe like Rod Stewart, right? He was in Faces, But to me, I think that's more like a better example of like, so Rod Stewart is this person to me, like I can be familiar. And then when I found out that he was in another band before that, I was like, oh,
that was way better.
I was like, oh shit, I didn't realize that. I thought he was just this guy, I thought that he was just this singer that kind of came
right,
up. That,
like Billy Joel. Right.
Yeah.
Billy Joel's been Billy Joel.
Yeah, exactly.
He's never been in a famous
so
band
maybe
before.
that's more of like, maybe that's a good example, but how many Rod Stewarts are out there that where you can just say, oh yeah, they did this other thing beforehand that was different, was better, was whatever, that is kind of separated where, fans of the different bands would not really connect them,
Right.
So,
or at least like the level of mainstream success that they have, their like fan base currently doesn't necessarily know or acknowledge what their previous career was like, or like the earlier part of their career.
Yeah.
because that was all leading up to where they are now. But some people just don't know what that was. Some people just like, this guy was on MTV. I listened to his videos and he's great.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's like,
yeah.
oh, he plays at the stadium. I'm going to go see him at the stadium.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for like Justin Timberlake, he was still singing and dancing and like,
Yep.
choreographed stuff. So
Yeah, I mean,
if
same.
he was in like a gutter punk band before that, then I'd be like, oh, that's sweet,
I'd be like, I used to like him when.
Yeah. No, I think Justin Timberlake is really good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't go out and run to buy his record the day it comes out or anything like that. But no, I think
As I don't really for anything, even things that I love. I
there's
still
not-
wait for like, oh no, I'll get that like months after the fact. I
Yeah.
don't need it like as soon as it comes out.
Yeah, well, I mean, things are different. I mean, I guess that the vinyl resurgence has been kind of cool. I'm definitely I do like physical albums more than like just the digital thing, kind of getting back to what you're talking about. I mean, it's absolutely true. Even like the Umbrella Co. EP, it came out digitally, so it's available everywhere on Spotify and Bandcamp and iTunes and all that stuff. But nothing was ever like made.
Right.
So I like the made things. With Sharks going back years, we had a couple of songs that were left over from our album, so we put together a cassette single that were all like hand done, and covers were all like handmade and stuff like that, just so we'd have something,
Yeah.
And so I also do like the cassette resurgence. I dig that kind of thing, but this was before even that was kind of, maybe it was at the beginning of that
Yeah.
coming up. So there's a lot of people like, I don't have a cassette player, dude. Like, why am I going to buy this? Because I'm like, it's like $2. It's like we're selling these cassettes for like, nothing, like $3 or something,
Right.
It's like the two songs that you would, the $2 you would spend on iTunes, and it's $1 just to cover the cost of the
Right.
cassette. And to be honest, when I started doing it, I was like, oh, this would be really cool. We're gonna just did like 100 cassettes. After I did like a couple dozen, I was like, what the fuck did I do this for? I was like so labor intensive of like copying all these cassettes and cutting out these covers and pasting them and like, so yeah, for $1.
Right. But 20, 30 years from now, that $1 cassette
maybe,
is
yeah,
going to be worth $5.
But anyway, I just love doing that.
Yeah.
I love what people are doing. So again, Paul from Teeth Like Swords, he runs a really great label called Tor Johnson, and they do a ton of like really cool printings, and he personally like will do like a single side LP, and then the back side is like screen printed, and
Okay.
I just love what he's doing. So and he's kind of focused on that. He's really focused on record shops as well, which is an interesting thing for me, because like probably a lot of people, I buy music directly from the artist now through Bandcamp or directly from the record label. Part of that is I don't really venture out too much. But even going back, I would usually just wait to buy records at the shows or anything like that. But Paul is like really wants people to go into record shops, so he does like limited pressings. And there's like, like Aneurysm's record that just came out, which is really good. Is like there's 5 copies of like green vinyl at Armageddon, and then there's like 7 copies of like whatever. I'm just picking colors, so don't like quote me on this stuff if you show up there and there's like no green vinyl at Armageddon, but like
Right.
7 copies of this other color vinyl at like a independent record shop in New York City. And then there's like, just different things that he just wants people to go to the record shops. He'd prefer them to go to these record shops than to even buy it directly from Tor Johnson.
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
That's a great idea. I mean, from his perspective, I mean, it sounds kind of like weird to me. Like, I understand why he would want to do that, just to kind of get people into the store. So it's just like it's a mutual support thing. Because if you're running a label, obviously you want the record distributors to want to carry your stuff, and then give them an incentive to want to carry it. It's just like, oh, we're going to have some limited edition things, and the limited edition series of vinyl thing seems to be the most like kind of grabbing concept behind the vinyl resurgence lately. I feel like that's like where the efforts are. It's just like, because I think vinyl sounds great. I really do. Like, I don't think that it matters if it's black vinyl or not. But there are so many more bands and labels that are like making an effort to do these limited pressings to kind of, I don't know, just capture that market on like this collectible thing.
Well, there's like, the incentive. People kind of respond to the rarity of stuff. So if you can put that, into as many categories as possible of like,
maybe because it makes it easier to identify too. Because so for me, for doing this whole record resale business, I've been running into like first pressing records a lot. And they're not necessarily unique. I mean, it looks like the same.
I mean, like getting back to like the 60s and stuff like that. When you're looking at those records, it's like what the label is and like the the font of the the record label that's on there. So if it still says like Capitol Records, the first pressing is going to be in like this particular style or like this particular like ink color. This one was like gray, and the second pressing is black or something like that. And you're like, you just need to know that. So I've been like really fortunate to be on the board of the Rhode Island Music Hall of Fame, be a founding member of the Rhode Island Music Hall of Fame. So just getting to know some of the people there, and our archivist is this guy Rick Belair, that is like one of the most wonderful, but also one of the most like brilliant musical minds I've ever encountered. And he has, do you remember Marty's house in Buffalo? Did you? Yeah. Because remember his record collection?
Well, yeah, I remember it looking massive.
Yeah, well, like Rick, like surpasses that. Like Rick's has a triple decker, and his second floor is his record collection. That is, so he's been collecting records of everyone. Like he's got like, just so much. Like he's a big Beatles fan, big Rolling Stones fan. So he's got like every pressing of every Beatles album. But he's been collecting records of Rhode Island bands for the Music Archive. So so it's been cool. Like some bands have been donating to that, which has been great. But he will educate me on all these different things of like how we can tell what the different pressing is of this particular, of like Rubber Soul. You can look at it and be like, this is the, this is the third pressing of it or something like that. Or this was like the UK import of, whatever. And there's like nothing that I could ever tell, but he can just,
Right. Yeah. There's very, very like insignificant things or differences. And I know what you mean. And that I can't recall that stuff like from nowhere, but I have to do the research. Like I'll grab the record knowing, I'll sometimes eyeball it. Like if I see something and be like, I think that's an earlier one, I'll go ahead and I'll pick it up and I'll bring it home.
Yeah.
Cause I'm like, worst case scenario, like I'd break even on it. But best case scenario is like, that's a few $100s right there.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'll just bring it home, whatever. I'll do the research and I'll look it up, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Yeah.
No big deal.
But I mean, they've made it a lot easier for people like you now on labels like Top Shelf Records or anyone, where they're like, all right, first pressing, 75 were clear, 100 were black, like 150 were yellow or something like that. Second pressing, so you can just tell. You open the thing up and be like, oh yeah, I've got a yellow one, so it must be first pressing. Like,
unless they get years down the road and they happen to like redo that.
Yeah, but it doesn't even, at least the labels that I'm most familiar with, or the bands that I'm most familiar with, it doesn't seem like they purposely don't do another yellow. They do like a if they do, it's like a yellow splatter or something like that, or a,
Right.
yellow blue swirl or something,
Yeah.
so you can still kind of differentiate what.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, you can really hear that swirl.
Yeah, it's really important. I don't know. I dig that stuff, I guess. I mean, it's
No, I do too. I mean, it looks cool. It's just an amazing looking thing. I mean, vinyl just vinyl itself
Yeah.
when it's good, clean copy,
yeah,
looks cool.
yeah,
So when you get the different colors and like the splatters and like the marbled look, like,
yeah.
it's all
There's a lot of cool stuff. Then, I mean, I have some Converge vinyl. That's some of it's like really cool. I mean, they make it like. I mean, they can take it like to the next level, making it like thematic. So it's like it's not red, it's blood splatter, But the thing I love about, well, not the thing, but one of the things I love about Converge is like their rarest records are black. Like they're those guys that will just be like, oh, we've got all these like crazy colors, but like if you want to be like the real, it's like we only made 50 on black vinyl or something like that. So it's like just kind of flipping everything on its head.
That's cool.
So, there's a lot of different ways to kind of go about the rarity stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's just getting to be more and more freaking crazy. That's all these different pressings and
but I mean,
repressings.
it has
like
to be
this.
well. It has to be hard. I mean, I know it is. It's not even a question or I know it's hard for bands and the quote unquote successful bands in order for them to be able to make a living, where before they could put out a new record and then kind of bank on the royalties and just the amount that's going to be sold. Like the money is in touring. So even bands like Wilco, who were, on a major label, very influential bands, one of the, most well-known bands of our time right now.
Right.
They don't really make, at least from what I've heard, they really don't make any money from
The record sales?
like, right. Cause people don't buy records,
Right.
with places like Spotify and just other like streaming services, they don't make any money, unless one of those songs gets on some like coffee house, Starbucks, playlist that is like, played, millions of times a day. Then that's the only way that like you can make anything substantial from it. But
right. No, I know it's the licensing. That's where the money is in making music today. I mean, probably since the beginning of the recording industry, but yeah, that so much even more so today, especially. And like all these famous acts like that, like that's where they make their money. Is just like, oh, we can get our music, used in commercials and in movies and TV. That's like
Or even, I mean, Sunny Day. I think they have I would say probably like a platinum record, but it's because they have a song on one of the Batman movies. I think it is one that has like Seal, like
Batman Forever.
Is that what it is or something? Like
so
they have.
It was actually one of the tracks on this.
Okay. So
the bonus track.
They have, that's where their platinum or gold record or whatever it is, like it's from that.
For having
it's
one
not,
song
for one,
on that
yes,
record,
exactly, yeah.
It's just like they don't get that much for that. Like that's not going to help. Like if they were continuing on and keep on like making more music and like got more songs on more records, more soundtracks and stuff like that, then probably be working out pretty well for them. But yeah, actually, I was listening to some,
which I think William was going to sell too. Now that I think of it, now that he was like, he just doesn't care. He's like, if I was going to, anybody want this thing? Anybody care about having a platinum record? So,
there's probably a market for it.
Oh yeah. I remember we stayed with on tour with Barn Burning. We stayed with Caitlin Carey, and I think it was a Whiskey Town record, which crazy time to talk about Whiskey Town, but just it was wonderful to get to stay in her house, and then but just walking down her hallway, she just had this like gold record up on her thing. I was like, whoa. Shit.
Right. That's cool. There's a different level of that though, like where what's his name? Peter Buck.
Yeah.
From REM did like production work for Wilco and stuff like that and other bands. And there's stories about him just like wandering around his house, and like you open up a closet and just like gold records and platinum records just fall out.
Yeah.
It's just like he doesn't give a fuck. He's just whatever. It's just another one.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's a interesting thing that. I mean, I think that if you've just done it and you've just been gifted and are going to do this no matter what, I mean, to me, like hearing about, I mean, I'm definitely very aware of like music Hall of Fame type things. We've been extremely lucky with the Rhode Island Music Hall of Fame, that just that network of people, the ones that have been inducted over these years, have just been really supportive of our organization and supportive of others. But, hearing Radiohead getting inducted and, Tom York saying he can't make it, and there's like this weird kind of like, I can't make it because I'm working on this other thing, and they're like, that thing's in like a month, like, why can't you just fly here,
Right.
But just like not really being that interested, like it doesn't really matter for them to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, like, I mean, I can't speak for him, but it's just a different thing. Like, he's just got to be making music and composing and doing all these other things that it just like doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm. No, you know what? I was going to say something along the lines of like, it was something about this generation that kind of instilled that, it seems. Like, so the grunge era and, the early 90s and the Seattle, punk, emo scene, whatever you want to call it, indie rock scene, kind of kickstarted that whole thing, because these were people that were in bands that ended up becoming like world famous bands that had no desire in being famous. Yeah. I think that realistically, the concept, which was something that you kind of touched on earlier, was I want to be able to do this for my job. Like, I want to be able to do this and not have to work.
Yeah.
So for that to happen, unfortunately, you have to sell out to a degree where you're like, well, yeah, I mean, I have to sign a record label deal because they're going to give me the money to record the record, and they're going to put the record out. All I have to do is show up and play the music.
Yeah.
And then whatever, I can make some money on it, and that's fine. I get to tour the world just like I wanted to do. I get to make some money, bring it home, and rinse, wash, repeat. Do it again. Next record comes out, do it again. But they weren't ready for that level. They just didn't know that was possible, and so then they all started kind of like downplaying it or just trying to keep themselves out of that as much as they could. Like Pearl Jam is probably the best example of that, where they didn't do music videos, they limited their interviews. Yeah. Even for press junkets or whatever you want to call them. Nirvana famously hated being famous. Kurt Cobain openly despised it. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like Radiohead kind of, even though it was a different style of music, they were actually still came up around the same time.
Yeah, I mean
their
Pablo Honey
first
was maybe
92, maybe?
Yeah, somewhere around there, 92, 93 maybe. I don't know.
Even though they were a British band, it was still kind of that same attitude where it's just like, we just want to make music. We're artists. We're artists. We just want to make music.
Yeah, I had a friend that just happened to be in England and saw Radiohead play like a tiny pub, and just be like, hey, I saw them play, like that type of level. I mean, Pablo Honey is very much or especially compared to what they're doing now, just a much more just straight up like kind of rock record, not this where they're going with now, just a lot more electronic,
stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, but I mean, Sunny Day was definitely, almost the kings of just being mysterious, and nobody really knew what they were about. So
yeah, well, let's keep this going.
Yeah,
we're gonna put on side 2. This is really hard to do from this angle, I'll tell you.
It's pretty cool. It looks like the 4 sides, they entitled the sides the different elements of their name. So correct. Side 1 is sunny, side 2 is day,
side 3 is
what is it?
Real. And then the last one's Estate. I was getting confused because here on the back cover it actually says side A, side B, and side C and D, C, D. So I'm like, okay, now you fucked me because now I'm trying to like read and think of something at the same time.
Yeah.
Something different. But yeah, I don't know. So the whole thing about emo, I think maybe one of the strongest points to categorize a band as being emo is the lyrical content and the song names and titles. Title of the band, title of the record, title of the songs, all that stuff speaks to the level of like how much of an emo band they might be.
Okay.
No,
yeah, I guess I've
saying,
never really looked at maybe the song title. I guess I've never really paid attention.
Are you not big into lyrics? Because I'm not.
I am not. I'm a drummer.
You could care less about what's going on up front, huh?
There's some stuff, yeah. You know, I will sing along at certain parts, and there's some things that connect, but and I enjoy like every once in a while like sitting down and like reading the lyrics in the book, but no, I definitely haven't been someone that's like the content of it. It's definitely the drummer, what the drummer is doing, if they're doing anything that I see as interesting. So, yeah, I mean, with what Sonny was doing and bands like American Football and, the Get Up Kids, like Ryan from the Get Up Kids was kind of unique because he is left-handed, so he learned how to play drums left-handed, but then he was playing a bunch of shows, so he was like sharing sets, and so he then like taught himself how to do this sort of like open-handed, pseudo right-handed drumming, so it kind of added this wrinkle to a lot of things where he could in a sense he could do things that like most right-handed drummers wouldn't do because of how his drums were set up, like where his ride cymbal was and position to like where his hi-hat was or something like that, so we'd add these other parts. So I always found like what he did pretty interesting, but bands like Appleseed Cast or though they've had a series of drummers, I was really big into the like Kansas music scene, like people that were on Vagrant.
I thought for a second you meant the band Kansas. I was like, where are you going
No,
with
like
this?
from Lawrence, Kansas. So yeah, the Get Up Kids and the Anniversary and Appleseed Cast and Casket Lottery, all of those bands, they were more so like the Casket Lottery and Appleseed Cast, like their drummers are really, really good. So that's what I listen to, is the drums.
So are you a big prog music fan?
No.
Are you like
I don't know why. I don't know why.
Prog? You're like, prog,
no, I'm not.
disgusting.
It's just it's like a very good question. I never every time I've like so King Crimson rules. I just never listened to. I don't know what it is. Like anything.
So
that
they rule, but you don't listen to them.
Yeah, it's never something that I like will like. Oh, I don't own any King Crimson.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Next time I see Daryl, I'll see if I can rip his collection. But it never like.
So there are so many other bands, like just like you were listing off all these emo bands. That the names I'm definitely familiar with, the style of their music I can imagine, but I don't know if I can necessarily name you any one of their songs.
Yeah.
But the prog rock is the same thing. It's just like there's so many different bands.
Yeah.
Like even early Genesis.
Yeah.
Is prog rock.
Yeah.
And they have like a number of albums that are within that vein before they became the poppy 3-piece band that everyone knows them for.
Yeah.
And who else? King Crimson was a good example. Hawkwind I just discovered.
Okay.
That could be considered to be prog music, though I don't find it to be as lengthy, balladish.
Yeah.
These massive orchestrated like things that go on forever.
Yeah.
But still has like this weird space rock element to it and stuff like that. And So they're a good example of something that you might like.
Yeah.
That is not. I don't know, because I feel like my experience with prog rock as a young person was that I couldn't get into it because of my short attention span.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like I really needed it fast and hard. And to like just kind of get off quick as far as that was concerned. And prog rock just wasn't doing that. It was like these long journeys that taking you on. I'm just like, I don't have time for this shit. Yeah. But,
no, I mean, there's definitely that too. I mean, there's some element of like I just kind of like shorter, like harder,
catchy,
like fast song. Yeah. So I mean, Damon Atkinson from Braid and Hey Mercedes is one of my favorite drummers, or Heath from Mock Orange. Like those guys, those two guys are my favorites. So yeah, I mean, there is that. I don't know if it's just also the. Not that I'm being a rebel, but you know, like I just like this is the stuff that I kind of connected with, was this like genre of music. So when someone's like, "Go listen to that," I have this weird kind of connection. It's like that's what my uncle listened to. Was like, you know, these you know, even I mean, I listen to like any like Rush and Led Zeppelin. Like all of it is like really good, but it's just not what I kind of gravitate to. You know, so. And I guess the other thing, though, is even though there's a lot of crappy sounding punk records, like there's some element of like records that were from that era. So again, I'm not as well versed, but there's some records that just the drums I don't think sound very good. So it's harder for me to kind of connect, even with some like Led Zeppelin records. Like what is being played is awesome, but like the drums just to me sometimes don't sound
you don't
that
like
great.
The sound of those?
They're just like a little too flat for me.
Flat?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean,
Are
I know
you listening to them in the right way?
What is that like?
I don't know. I mean, well, because there was the thing about Led Zeppelin's record 2, their second record, where it's actually a very valuable pressing on vinyl. Robert Ludwig did a remastering of it, and they and it has since been labeled the hot pressing. It's super valuable. Like if you find one, it's like $500 minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's because it was, it's a rare pressing because they discontinued it because people were buying it, taking it home, listening to it, and complaining that there may have been a manufacturing defect to it.
Yeah.
Because the levels of the bass and the drums, I guess, were so hot, like they're so high in the mix.
Yeah.
That it was like causing people's like turntables to just kind of like skip.
Okay.
Like it was just like, I guess it was just like shaking the whole shit to pieces, and it just wasn't playing well.
Yeah.
So the label discontinued them, and then they started making another pressing of the records and putting them out. But if you can find any of those, that'd be good. But so to speak to the quality of the sound that you're hearing, I don't know if like that has anything to do with it.
Maybe,
like,
I don't know. I mean, I guess even this. So comparing Diary to How It Feels to Be Something On, like that, both those records seem. Even though there's a record in between, that LP2 is like, I mean, I know a lot of people connect to it. There's some good songs on it, but it was like they needed to do it to complete their
contractual obligation.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's like, here's the thing. But the production of How It Feels to Be Something On, I think, is better. And this one, like, I feel like even listening to like some of the live stuff, like it seems like it just like this could have been a bigger. There just could have been more rock, quote unquote, to this. It could have been a bigger rock record. Like it seems like it's a little bit subdued with what it is. So some of that is, you know, I guess what I'm kind of listening to or the things that I can kind of connect with is just that. I don't know. I do like some of the louder, heavier, raw stuff at times. So I don't know. I don't really make any sense, you know. You can ask my wife that I hate mayonnaise, but I use tartar sauce, you know. So that's who I am, you know.
Weird, yeah, very complex. It's like I like some things, but these gotta be a certain way.
Yeah.
Can't explain why.
Yeah, exactly.
But it just has to be that way.
I know. I wish I learned about music over these last 25 years, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, just being like self-taught, like being a self-taught drummer, and
Yeah, I hear you.
it's hard to like articulate certain things, or even in this type of context of like what is it that's there. But I mean, to me that's also, I guess, getting to the emo part of it, or what again, quote unquote emo means. It's just that to me, like, I have had that emotional connection to this, like where I like this a certain song, like, or a certain band, a certain part of a song that like I get really excited still now, like years and years later, not like a teenager at shows, but like I put on like a Garrison record, and there's certain parts where I'm like screaming it in my car, like the sing-along parts and stuff.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, it's just kind of been what I've been able to connect with. I guess I just, what we're talking about earlier, the kind of extension or the continuation of from 80s punk and 80s hardcore, and what that sound was, the energy and the sound and the just the aesthetic and vibe and all that other stuff. And then Sunny Day was like, well, we kind of want to take that, but we don't want to scream anymore. We don't want to like yell. How can we try to write songs that have that type of energy, but we sing over it, and I mean, that was like Sunny Day, kind of came about in that way, when they just invited Jeremy in, and it's like, oh, this guy can kind of sing a little bit, and he has these lyrics, and let's see what, that wasn't the intention of the band necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the demos were like. I heard something about them actually having had like demos that were even kind of like in circulation prior to this record coming out.
Oh, okay.
And prior to Jeremy and joining the band.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that was like.
No, I mean, yeah, just what I heard is that they were like Dan and Nate and William were like a band like that had different names.
Right.
But they were playing together like before this, and yeah, it was like Dan was who does sing on this record,
Yeah.
But it was like him trying to do this, so like, and bringing someone in that could sing more or have that.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to like imagine what would have. I guess one of the things that also kind of falls into the emo category is just like Jeremy's voice is one of the original of this wave of emo, just had that very
disjointed vocals.
Yeah, and it was almost like identifiable, for like the thing I really liked about Nirvana was it was something that I could do, when I was in high school, I played in like a pseudo like Nirvana cover bands, we did a bunch of Nirvana songs. We did some other songs that were original, but they sounded like Nirvana songs.
Right.
But it was like, I'm, learning how to play drums, but I can do what Dave Grohl does. And this guy is on MTV, and this guy is, something that a lot of people enjoy. So
right.
I think that there was that element of like, you don't need to be, like I had said, like a classically trained vocalist where you know how to do this stuff. It's just you need to kind of just sing and have that I don't know, a little bit of that I don't know, it's hard to not say, but that emotional kind of I don't know, I guess it doesn't make that much sense because everything kind of has emotion if you're screaming, but just that like quieter singy thing that or as some people, I'll just say, whiny, like a more whiny kind of tone at times,
Yeah.
So, which again is, I'm sure, why that came about. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I listen, like none of these bands that I've listed ever consider themselves an emo band. Most of them hate it.
Oh, yeah, I guess I can see that.
Yeah, because they just looked at themselves as like we just were playing. At least the interviews I've heard. I mean, there's a podcast that I've checked out called Washed Up Emo, that a lot of these guys have been on. They're like, that's one of their questions is like, what do you think about this? And they're like, it just kind of varies, but none of them necessarily embraced it. I don't know if that's unique to the emo genre, or if you talk to King Crimson and you're like, what do you guys think about being prog? They'd be like, we're just a rock band,
we're just
like
expressing ourselves, man.
or if they'd be like, oh yeah, I don't know, I've never really delved into that, but it's definitely like the emo thing that people were like, nah,
Labels are tough. I think that if a band is, influenced, have a lot of different influences, and are trying to make music that is between genres, being pigeonholed as any one thing is going to be probably a little sore point for them. I mean, like, I don't know. I can't think of a great example. But like, one of the last bands I was in, the Superheroes, we always used to get labeled a ska band, which is not what we were. And I think legitimately I can honestly say we were not a ska band. We had some ska influences, but really not ska. Like because I mean, ska, it's like every song is almost the same. Like
or
it has that strong emphasis on the upbeat and the stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like,
did you tell anyone to pick anything up?
I don't think I've ever once asked anyone to pick anything up.
Yeah, you're not a ska band.
No,
I mean, I don't even know what's up for debate.
Just my kids. Can you pick up your room, please?
Yeah.
Pick it up. I gotta start playing some more ska music for them. Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea. That's actually
I do really like ska. I'm kind of waiting for the next wave to come along. So
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the next wave is going to be, but yeah, there's some bands. But even with that changed so much too. It was like, all right, so you have like this core, like punk band, but then you have some horns, so you're ska. But there's there's such a different thing of like from the Bosstones to Voodoo Glow Skulls to, I really like a band called the Smooths and
like the Toasters.
Yeah, there's just like different. The Specials are a lot, just a lot of different.
But it does have a very strong vibe, like similar vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely like a very distinct thing that's going on with ska music and ska bands.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess, to that other point, like, they print that shit on their patches. Like, they're not ashamed of it, It's like...
Yeah,
the names of the labels are like Moon Ska, It's like, just so you don't get it confused with anything else, we're a ska label, Like, we make ska music,
I don't think Moon's
like,
gonna
there's not
cut
like,
it. Maybe
hey, Deep Elm emo, like...
Right. Yeah, they don't embrace that label, I guess, then, huh? I didn't really think about it because I've never considered myself to be a really big emo fan. I definitely appreciate a certain degree of it and some of the bands, but I never really really dived deep into it.
Yeah.
But now that you kind of mentioned that, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess so. I guess that is kind of like tough to live with, especially when you don't embrace that label, Like, I don't know how the grunge guys felt. Well, they probably suffer the same fate, huh? Like Sunny Day being, on Sub Pop and,
Yeah, or just being from Seattle.
And being from Seattle in the 90s.
But I think it's cool. I think it's great what they did, because they just probably could have just been another grunge band and just done the same thing.
I think that they are. Like, it depends on your perspective. Like I don't use the emo label very much, even listening to music now, and like even listening to this, or if I were to pick up a Braid record or Promise Ring, I wouldn't. Emo's not the first thing that comes to mind. Yeah. Like if I were going to try to describe them, I probably at this point in my life would not say, "Oh, that's an emo band."
Yeah. Yeah, I think. Well, a lot of it is who, marketing-wise, you're clumped in with.
Right.
So it really doesn't have, when you get down to it, in actuality, what you even sound like. Mm-hmm. So like if Sunny Day was marketed as a grunge band and as a continuation of Nirvana and Pearl Jam, then they might have been that. You know what I mean? I guess what comes to mind is our friend Daryl played in the Cancer Conspiracy and did a ton of shows with bands that didn't sound like what he sounded like, but he probably would have been clumped more in. I mean, I guess he would be a better person to ask, but I bet you that he would be more clumped in with like the emo scene, like, oh, Cancer Conspiracy was an emo band, rather than like
they on tour with Piebald.
But as opposed to a prog band which is what they, you know, they're a 3-piece instrumental that would do 11-minute songs or whatever that were like super intricate, you know, brilliantly done stuff, you know, but they weren't writing 3-minute, you know, pop rock songs with a singer that can't sing over it, you know, like
they just didn't bother singing at all.
So if you were to like say like what kind of band is Cancer Conspiracy, you'd be like, I don't know, emo band, right?
Math prog,
you know,
like some math rock. That's the other thing too. So there were so many different genres that kind of like developed like after grunge. Sunny Day Real Estate and this record Diary probably being at the forefront of the emo thing, and that's what it morphed into. Because I don't know for sure, but I can pretty much presume that in 1994 when this came out, there was no emo label. I mean, grunge was like the newest thing, and it was like kind of like the hot word.
Yeah,
for
it was
the
like
scene.
You know,
so they
moving away
probably-
from the 80s rock, glam rock. You know, this was the opposite of that. You know, instead of guys wearing spandex and makeup, these were guys that were like
wearing
flannel.
and
Yeah,
torn
exactly.
jeans.
Yeah.
But so I don't know when that happened, but I know that there were like variations between hardcore. So there was punk, there was hardcore, and then like when they started to fuse together is when you started coming up with emo, because then there was like an emo core, right?
Yeah.
And so this is all stuff that I'm kind of like, you know, paraphrasing from a podcast I heard, but but yeah, so post-hardcore, then there was like all those other different types of things, like a mathcore, like this math rock, like hardcore music. And I didn't even think about it until I heard that. I was just like, oh yeah, there was all those like different labels. And then like Fugazi was kind of like within that realm too. Like, so they were like the East Coast version of like this newer grunge thing, and which ended up becoming like a not hardcore, because, you know, Ian MacKaye was in Minor Threat first, which is very much just kind of straight up punk.
Yeah.
And then like he went on to create another band. I can't remember the name of that band, but then eventually Fugazi, which was more of like this like groove-ish, like had this like these very strong grooves in them.
Yeah.
And like not just kind of straight thrashing hardcore. And so that was falling into that category of emo core, and that's where I was mentioning the whole lyrics thing and like the words and like the literal presentation of these bands were more like kind of like a self-deprecating, more of like an introverted like perspective, for like an inner perspective from like the writer's perspective, like, you know, perspective. Like he's kind of like writing more about them himself, more about like in depth and you know, psychological stuff.
Yeah.
You know. Like whereas like the other thing I heard about the name Sunny Day Real Estate was more of an idea of like, you know, at some point in our life, like, you know, we can just like buy good feelings, like that's where our lives are gonna like morph into, where we can just, you know, be represented, like someone can represent happiness and good things, good thoughts and feelings, and we can just purchase them from them.
Yeah.
And that's where Sunny Day Real Estate comes from.
Wow.
Which I'm just
so
like...
this is like Black Mirror, and, you know, 20 years before it.
yeah. I mean, it's just like...
precursor to that show coming out of.
Yeah, well, and then, I mean, that's... Speaking of the genre, I think that's where it was, like, because I really don't have any good examples, because I don't have a very strong background in that style of music. But from what I can remember of like certain things, like Cap and Jazz was maybe probably one of the most emo bands that I ever listened to thoroughly.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's all that stuff. It's just like this off-key singing, like someone that doesn't sound like they can really sing well. And it's, yeah, it sounds like it's coming from a deep inner perspective, you know, from the writer.
Yeah.
And that's what I think emo to me is more about, more so than like the hookiness, the catchiness of the songs, the poppiness to them, but having this undertone of like being like kind of hardcore-ish and like punkish. Because then another like example that I can't really speak to very well, but I know that he falls into the category is like Dashboard Confessional.
Yeah.
Which I think later into his pop career was more of just like an acoustic act, right? It wasn't really much of like a band.
Yeah. Well, Chris started, he was a singer of a band called Further Seems Forever that is really good.
See, like that name?
Yeah.
That definitely...
That first record is really good. So, yeah, I think that he kind of rode that wave. He was Chris from Further Seems Forever, and then he started this other band, Dashboard Confessional. Maybe that's a good example of, like, there's probably fans of Dashboard Confessional and him just being an acoustic guy that might not be able to backtrack and be like, oh, yeah, you're in this other band that is way better than what you're doing now.
But those are two good examples of names that are, like, very complicated if you really, like, look into it and read into it.
Yeah.
Like, kind of like Sunny Day Real Estate is just like, and that's one of those things that kind of helps it fall into that category, you know?
Yeah.
More so than just even the sound of the music itself. Is just like that.
Yeah, there's definitely like the marketing element of that, of like a lot of the people that were playing this music were generally like what would be considered cute white high school kids, you know, like late teens, you know, they just would wear, you know, like, especially in the 90s, it was like super tight t-shirts and shit like that. But yeah, I mean, like musically, I don't pay as much attention, but there was definitely a movement with like the guitars as well, that they kind of went away from necessarily like the guitar solo. You know, what Dan did was, you know, to me, I don't know if it's necessarily true, but I was like a fan of like hip hop at the same time, that he would kind of write these like sort of just rhythmic, sort of like hooky guitars that would just like, here's a couple of notes that are going to repeat over and over again. And then they would add those other elements, but he's not necessarily playing, you know, lead guitar. You know, he's not the rhythm guitarist, you know, like Jeremy would play the rhythm guitar and then Dan would just kind of play these other, you know, like sort of like, you know, fingered or just, you know, notey hooks that would kind of come in, and then they'd be like, turn your pedal on and it would get a little bit louder, but it wasn't.
Would you use this song as a kind of good example of that? Like the finger picking here, would that be Jeremy doing the rhythm, and then in the background you could kind of hear this like echoing, like sweeping sounds basically, which might be the guitar like using some kind of effects, like not necessarily maybe an EBow, but something along those lines.
Yeah. I guess just commenting that the guitar sounds that there's to me a pretty defined sound that would put a band to that emo genre, as opposed to just the punk sound, or just some like there was just something that kind of came out of this record or of this time that sort of kind of put everyone into that category. Certain tones, and again, I'm not a guitarist, so I probably can't speak too much as to what they were doing. You know, on this particular part of how this stuff is played, maybe they were, you know, referencing something else prior to it that someone else other than me could reference of like, oh, they're just ripping off this whatever Van Halen song or something like that, but just that like rhythmic rhythmic sound of the that type of thing, instead of it just being like holding out a note, like on their second record, like one of their famous songs has that, you know, lead into like the more mathy kind of sound, where it's just like that angular sound. They kind of showed elements of that, but yeah, to me, I don't know, I guess because I've listened to it so much that there's just different different elements that kind of come out. So you know, like larger, like Smashing Pumpkins could have probably fallen into this type of thing as well, but it was just because they had sort of surpassed these bands in popularity, that they can kind of shed those types of things. But you know, more recently you can look at bands that do come out of this scene that people don't really look at it. You know, when they're playing arenas, people probably don't think that Fall Out Boy is a emo band or something like that, or they just say,
not an emo band?
I don't know. I don't know, but I mean, they're probably just saying like, oh, this is just, I like this band. You know, they're not saying I like the, you know, and it's probably because of Fall Out Boy that all of these other bands before them are like, I don't want to be called that if I if I'm in the same category as those guys. But you know, but people like, once you get to that certain level, or like Panic at the Disco when you're playing like arenas, you know, like it's just like, do people necessarily say, oh, they are this type of thing, or it just takes on a different or like what you're saying about being grunge, like maybe they never like Mudhoney would have never called themselves that, but like and maybe it benefited them greatly by being in that pool. But you know, once it kind of goes to the other side and it becomes this like cliche thing, or you start to see, you know, as people say, you know, like once you start seeing that stuff in like Hot Topic and it's like this manufactured thing, or it's like what people want, then it like loses like its essence. Like you know, I'd like to think that these bands were just doing it. I mean, the stuff I've seen is just that Sunny Day had no real expectation or want to be as big of a band as they are, or like, or as influential a band. They just they just looked up to Rites of Spring, which is, you know, part of that Fugazi continuation, you know, or Fugazi lineage.
Yeah, well, I guess you never really expect to be a influential person or artist or something like that, you know. I mean, it's influential, especially. I mean, like, you know, you can always say that, you know, you start a band and you hope to become successful, but that doesn't necessarily mean you go out saying like, I hope I can, like, you know, inspire a whole generation.
Yeah, like, I'm going to start a new genre of music that I didn't even know what it was going to be called, you know?
Right, exactly. I'm going to refresh my drink there. Are you good for your
I'm
soda?
good, thank you, though.
So, yeah, sorry, I just got to take a little break. I got to make sure that the video's still working, because last time I had a fiasco with that. It just stopped spontaneously.
Okay.
And you can actually get to listen to the music for a little
All
bit
right.
and actually hear it. whatever, it is what it is. I can't.
Yeah.
It's out of my control at this point. The point is to eventually get to a point where maybe I'll even have a couple of cameras and actually have legitimate cameras and not necessarily use this thing.
Yeah.
But that day is slow coming.
Oh, with building this thing up, or?
Yeah, well, you know, it's this isn't supposed to be a business, you know. Like I never thought I was gonna be in this, like, you know, record resale thing, because I never even really considered vinyl in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew that I liked music, and I know that vinyl was like always a good way to listen to music. But I never thought about getting into it, like, for selling it.
Yeah.
Like actually having that be a business, but now it is.
Okay.
But I see it more as like an opportunity to get into something else, because like where we are right now, like I want this to be a studio.
Okay.
So I got to build this out, and that's actually kind of like something I had mentioned in a prior episode, was that, you know, I'm not asking for money. Like, I'm not doing a Patreon thing.
Yeah.
I'm just like, just buy a fucking record.
Yeah.
You know? Just listen to the record with us. If you like it, buy it. It helps me out. Helps me try to, you know, complete this thing.
Cool.
And then it's all going to be a cascade of things. You know, I have all these things that are lined up.
Yeah.
And like this is the first phase, and I'm hoping to move into the second phase, and then so on and so on. And each phase is going to, hopefully, in theory, kind of help generate the next phase. You know, so and all the income I can make off of this business is going to go towards obviously building out a studio, so that I can do this in a better and more comfortable environment.
Yep.
Than you know, little space heaters in the winter. And
yeah, it's a bit chilly.
It's a little chilly. Yeah. Sorry.
That's all right.
At least you dressed for the weather, and I didn't warn you of that.
Yeah.
But you know, getting the cameras and stuff like that, and
yeah,
I already got some of the lighting, and I don't know what's going on with this. I don't know if this will actually pick up on the recording. I don't know if I'm just hearing this through the computer, or if it's the way it's going to sound.
Okay.
After it's all processed,
and
mixed, and you know, edited and all that.
Yeah.
But it's been sounding fine, like every previous episode. So
I
don't know why it would be different.
Yeah. That's cool. It's cool to listen to. I mean, it's going back to what you're saying. I mean, it's cool listening to this record. Maybe I need to listen to some other records more intensely. Not that I really have time to sit down and listen to records, but no, this is cool hearing this. I mean, I've just been listening to the MP3s of Diary for years,
right?
Which kind of, you know, is the basis of that other comment about it. But like, this has a good feel to it. So
here's that bonus track.
Yeah.
This is 8. Originally released on Thief Steal Me a Peach 7-inch. Both of these songs were originally released on Thief Steal Me a Peach. But I believe 8 was also on the Batman Forever soundtrack.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So they kind of got a little extra mileage out of that song.
Yeah.
Now putting it on the reissue.
And I guess that those are the very literal titles of when these songs were written. So
as in order that they were written?
This was the 8th song that they had written, and then 47 was the 47th song, which that's a lot of songs.
Yeah, no.
To write.
Yeah.
That's true.
From what I remember
for their
hearing.
first record, you know, like, I know the Roots do that, and I think it's a cool idea that every record that they put out, you know, it's like just a continuation, you know, so their first record, the track listing is 1 through whatever, you know, and then the next record is, you know, say it's, you know, it's 1 to yeah, exactly, you know. So it's pretty cool. So you buy their new record, and it's like, you know, song 76 to, you know, 86 or something, you know. But that's a lot for, you know, a pretty new band as well, you know. Like, we when we were in Seattle, we played where did we play? Crocodile? Was it Crocodile Cafe?
Oh shit.
Because I was reading about this, and that's where the owner of Sub Pop saw Sunny Day. So I'm pretty sure that's where we played. So that's kind of cool to think that you and I were on that stage playing to probably the same amount of. Maybe they had a few more people because they were local, but from what it sounded like, it wasn't like Sunny Day was like doing tremendously well. It wasn't like they were a huge hit, at least from what I understand, like in Seattle. And then they were like, all right, we need to sign these guys. It was just kind of right place at the right time. The owner of Sub Pop was there and was like, these guys have this this like cool sound, this something that can connect with and kind of fast track them to do this. So
having that foresight is amazing. Like I thought about that a little bit too. Like one of those phases, I'm like, I'd like to like produce a band.
Yeah.
Like find someone and just like put some money in their direction and just be like, you know what, I have faith in these guys. I think they're actually going to really do something.
Yeah.
What a crazy fucking roulette wheel that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, maybe it just, he was able to do that. Like Nirvana probably opened up a whole lot of doors and was just bringing not only just attention to Seattle, but attention to his label. So obviously they're putting out great stuff. People would not buy these records if it wasn't good, but at that same token, being on Sub Pop lets you skip ahead a little bit, same to like if you get signed to Merge, like you're a little bit farther ahead than another
it kind of comes with
band.
its own fan base.
Yeah.
So it's like anyone that likes bands that are on Merge are most likely going to be like, well, if they're on Merge, I'll probably like it, so I'm going to pick it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which that's one of those things that I kind of really gets on my nerves about the record industry, because hearing that perspective from you, like I understand that, but I think that more realistically, the influence that the record label has is greater than the ability of the band.
Like who they can get their bands
like if you
in
just
front of and music played.
You can be the best band in the world. You could be an absolutely tremendous band, but if you don't have a label to support you, you're never going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's not true. Because there are examples of bands that have done that. But the fact of the matter is that you could also take a label, like a label that is developing some genuine momentum and has a catalog of like very good and successful bands, and they can find basically a nobody band and put them under their wing and propel them into a better status than they would reach on their own.
Yeah.
Or maybe even with like a different label that maybe doesn't have the same kind of clout that they have,
Yeah.
Like that's kind of my gripe with it, because I feel like it's actually, this is almost kind of like a conspiracy of mine, is that like no band would be where they are without their label. Like if there were like no labels, then we would have a very different perspective of like which bands become successful, like truly
You're talking
successful.
about some like socialist communist shit right there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm all about flipping the whole thing on its head.
Yeah.
Completely. I mean, no, I mean, because realistically, it's just like, maybe.
But yeah, there's definitely that
maybe it's the bitter musician in me that has that feeling. But because I mean, you know what it's like to be on a label that doesn't support you. Doesn't matter if you're on a label if they don't give you any support, if they're not giving you, if they're not like, because that's the thing, is like a label is supposed to get you like reviews and papers, like if they don't help you on your tour, they're at least supposed to like help get you press, get you publicity,
or hire a PR person, or have
hire
someone
a
that
PR
does
person,
it, so
stuff like that. And it's just like being in a band is like doing any other kind of business. The more money you can put into it, the more likely it will be to succeed.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. So you have all these other bands that are chasing their tails, like playing shows for $50 a night, maybe if they're lucky.
Yeah.
And jumping in a van and driving off to a different city every night.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense to do that anymore. So
or it's a tougher thing to pull the trigger on, to just go do that. I mean, or especially just being older and knowing that that's just what it is. But
Yeah.
I mean, again, for me, that's why it's been cool to get to do some new stuff, because it is just like doing it because I have to play music, and I'm
Right.
very lucky that my wife is supportive and is a musician herself and kind of gets it. Like there isn't a lot of back and forth discussion. I'm just like, hey, I think I want to start playing in a new band. She's like, okay.
Yeah. Right.
Just let me know. Like that kind of thing. Yeah, it's just about who you're playing with and just kind of being conscious of that. So I love playing with Mark and everyone else in Sharks Come Cruising and the guys in Umbrella Co. Like I've said time and time again, it's just been fun to just get to play with them.
Yeah.
I've played in bands that have been less stressful, or or have been more stressful, I should say, less
gratifying.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't done it too much, but kind of been like, all right, we need a drummer for this particular record, and do you want to come do it? And this this person had a little bit more success, and it was just a little bit it's been a little bit tougher to kind of just fill that role when like the record is done and a more famous drummer than me played on it and we need you to just play a couple shows, and I have my own style, and it's just a little bit tougher to do that. So that one was more of like my little window into being like not that I was like really being paid to do it, but more on the professional drummer type.
Right. Session musician.
Yeah, more that type of thing. So, yeah, I definitely enjoy just hanging out. I mean,
yeah.
The last record I did, I was with my friend Caleb and Phil, and it was a band called Cedros, and it's probably, no offense, James, but probably like my favorite record that I've ever made, and it's never been released, and not that many people have heard it, and I don't really care. I'm happy. I mean, I'd love it if it came out. I'd love it if somebody, I'd love it for more people to hear it, but I'm just happy that record was made. It's just something that I listen to. I enjoy listening to that record.
Yeah. Well, so why don't you put it out, or why doesn't Caleb put it out?
I'm not really sure. I don't know. I mean, we haven't played as a band in a long time,
right? But as an artist, as a musician,
yeah,
there is a certain level of that kind of like what you were getting at, where you'd like for people to hear it.
Yeah,
and it's not a money issue.
I mean, we can put it out digitally.
You can put it out on Bandcamp or something for people to be able to stream it and hear it.
I just don't. I don't know. I guess I think it would mean more to have it be put out. Like, I don't really just want it to. I don't know. I have a tough time. It doesn't seem real, I guess. Like, if it's not in some sort of physical capacity to me, like.
Right. But at the same time, you want people to hear it.
Yeah, I'd be happy with that. But again, I'm happy.
Why don't you just put it up on like one of the sites where people could just download it for free, and then that way they can put it on their device and listen to it whenever they want to listen to it?
I don't know.
I would listen to it.
Yeah.
I'm very intrigued. I want to hear it.
I mean, there's some songs that are out. You can like preview it, but I think I'd rather. I don't know. I mean, you can talk to Cable about it too, but I don't know. I'd rather have it be. I'm fine with where it is, I guess. I'd rather have, or I'm fine with leaving it where it is than to just put it out and just have it out.
All right, Toomey. Let's just get to this quickly.
Okay.
I just wanted to say thank you for coming. Thank you for coming and doing the show. I appreciate you being here and listening to this with me and talking about it with me. And
Absolutely.
Getting to know you a little bit better as far as the whole business is concerned, the Blackstone Valley Tourism Council and Umbrella Co.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'll link everything, and anything that you want me to link, I'll link. And that way, anyone else can get in touch with you or find out exactly what you're doing and what the band's doing, when it's doing it, and all that stuff.
Perfect.
Anything else that you'd like to...
No, just thank you. Thank you for the invite. It's been really cool to look a little bit deeper into this particular record and then kind of just reflect back on just this sub-genre of music.
Yeah, very interesting for sure, because I didn't even have any perspective on this record actually up until now. So
yeah,
very, very cool and interesting lesson for me. So thanks for sharing it with me, man.
Cool. Thanks.
Record's going to go up. If you're hearing this, it's available now, and I'll put the link up for it too. So if you are interested in purchasing your copy of this, this is the one you're getting, the one that you can see on the video, whatever length that's going to be, and that you just heard us talking over. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
So that was a cool talk. We had a lot of technical difficulties during the recording of this, and my audio feed just completely shut down very abruptly, so we kind of put a end on there at the last minute, and it was very abrupt, and I know that's why it kind of sounds so weird, but overall, really good talk, and the discussion we were getting into at the end, I feel free to ask anyone else if they want to comment. Go to the YouTube video and comment there, so we're going to continue the conversation, because it was pretty interesting, but unfortunately I had to kind of finagle it a little bit to make it work with this recording. So all the links are in the home pages of the audio stream and the video stream, so feel free to contact us whichever way you like. Thank you so much for listening.